Okay, business. So good athlete. You're on the Bahamas men's Olympic team. How did that redirect your life? Like, because I some of the quotes I read about where you said, I found out real early basketball
Yeah.
wasn't going to be my profession.
Yeah. So just point of clarification, I played on the 1994 Bahamian national team for the CARICOM games.
Okay.
So, I think for me, so much of what my parents did to keep us busy and out of a pretty tough neighborhood was church and sports. So, we had kind of the traditional middle class upbringing, except we lived in a very tough neighborhood. So every day I got to see what it felt like to be the poorest kid at my school and the most fortunate kid in my neighborhood.
Wow.
And the duality between having two parents in my home in a neighborhood where most people didn't, having parents that would pay for us to go to really nice schools where most people couldn't, and having 3 square meals in a really balanced household in a pretty tough impoverished neighborhood. But then going to school with kids who were financially on a different stratosphere from us. So I think I learned pretty quickly how to be balanced and also not take for granted what we had, but also recognizing that material gains were not going to be what really qualifies for a good life. So sports was kind of the main tool my parents used, and it's natural growing up when you grow to be 6'6" at 15, and you're a pretty good basketball player and good enough to be the best in high school, and that you just think like sports
Sure.
is going to be your ticket. And that first year playing as a walk-on at UTA, and then qualifying for the national team, where I could actually see real professional athletes and guys who were on their way to being professional athletes.
Yeah.
I always tell the story. We played, I won't call the name, we played against a very famous player, and I was 18 and he was 18, and I think he had 32 points in the first half, and I was like, oh,
That's
what an NBA player looks like. And so it allowed me to move on pretty quickly to say, if I was going to have the life I wanted, that I was going to be going professional in something other than sports. And so that was a gift, to kind of be able to focus at UTA and really get into my books. And I always wanted to be an architect from I was 12 years old. Working on a construction site. My uncle was a mason, and my father, because I was a pretty big child, sent me to work for him. And I was out in the sun mixing mortar and putting up blocks, and up rolled this nice burgundy Jaguar with a really well-dressed gentleman, and he walked out and looked around and sort of gave everyone direction on the job site and jumped back in his car. In 10 minutes, he was gone. And I looked at that and I said, who's that? And they said, well, that's the architect. And I said, oh, that's a much better job
Than this.
than mixing cement.
Right.
And so I've had just a good fortune, Bill, early in my life to know, one, I wanted to be involved in the building business because as a creative, I was always interested in the built environment and buildings and what it takes to create them. And then two, I did not get distracted by pursuing a career as an athlete too long,
Right.
where it would have distracted me from the gains. And so, I feel very fortunate to have had both experiences. The experience of, trying and not necessarily being the most successful athlete, and getting into a environment in college where I had great mentors and, focus on learning.
Don't you think athletics, though, the discipline it takes to get to
No
whatever
doubt.
level you are, helps you in life?
Yeah.
I mean,
It was very easy, right? Like
Right.
if through sports, my whole life I had been learning to wake up early and to
Right.
pack my bags the night before and to be disciplined enough to manage your time, to go from lifting, strength and conditioning, to class, from class to practice, from practice to homework and study sessions. So time management, discipline, hard work, a true meritocracy. Like sports is a meritocracy. If that guy's kicking your tail, he's going to get more playing time. And the only way to catch him if he's ahead is to run harder and faster, right? And to learn how to compete in school and then in my career was a wonderful gift.
yeah.
But to compete in a way where you're still a good teammate,
Yeah.
to compete in a way where you're still being kind and good to people around you,
Right.
and to learn how to lose and come back
Right.
All those things, were the kind of gifts that I got from sports. And I always think, like, man, how fortunate was I to be born in a house of faith with parents that believed in physical fitness and athletics, but not at the expense of academics.
Right.
And so, if anything, I look at my life, I've hit the parenting lottery.
Right.
Just hit the lottery with parents. And that's why the kids in our community that haven't hit that lottery, we need to be more caring of and more kind of. Because I think most of us who've been really successful, if we had to go back and sort of reverse engineer, we all are standing on shoulders, and we stand under trees we didn't plant.
Totally.
And we actually had some good grace and some good fortune, whether it was parents, the environment you were born into, the people around you.
Yeah.
And some folks in our community don't have those good graces. And we can now, at this time in our history as a city, do more for folks who have not been winners of the lottery.
Right.
And that's a wonderful opportunity I think we all have.